Welcome to Author on Author, where you can join our authors in an intimate conversation about their lives, their books, and their craft. Author on Author is presented by World Studios for World of the Right Review.
Hello, welcome to Author on Author, episode 11 for World Studios. I am very excited to be talking with Elisheba Haqq, author of Mama G. Oh, Mama G.
Come on, Diana. Good.
And my book is Things Unsaid. I have to do the opposite of what I want to do to get the right direction. Okay, so here are the two books, and we are trying to figure out why Annie McDonald of Right Review and of Author on Author has put us together, because there's a common theme or a common subject or approach that we both use, and we are going to discover, just like you're going to discover, what we have in common as we do this free-flowing conversation. So I'm going to start, and we haven't read each other's books, but we know that Elisheba's book is a memoir about their family dynamics, and particularly about the mother-daughter relationship. And mine is a novel, and it also penetrates the primal relationship between mother and daughter. So I'm going to start by asking Elisheba for her inspiration and her focus on that part of her early life.
Okay, thanks, Diana. By the way, you look great. It's so nice I'm happy to meet you virtually. I know we've met before on the phone, but this is the first time I'm talking and seeing you, so this is a treat. And I also have your book here, Things Unsaid, and I also have my book, Mama G. And I wanted to respond to your question, which is such a great question about inspiration. And I think my inspiration just was wanting to know about my mom, who had passed away when I was 3. And I really didn't know anything about her. And I really wanted to record what everyone else knew about her. And that was one inspiration. And the second was to try and figure out if there could be any connection between me and someone who I really didn't know at all, but who had been an important part of my life. So that was really the inspiration why I started writing the book. And I'm wondering if there's a possibility you had any kind of similar inspiration when you wrote Things Unsaid. By the way, is it Things Unsaid or Things Said? Because the un is crossed out.
It's crossed out because, like you in your discovery of trying to find out about your mother, well, if you have your mother as part of a family, but you only know your parents in relationship to you being a child, then there are things unsaid, namely, what are they like as people without being in the role of parents? And that's why I titled it that. Family Secrets, and in the case of the novel, Family Lies as well.
Well, very intriguing. And so how were you inspired to sort of write a novel about family secrets and family lies?
Well, I've always been a scribbler. I've always written stories. I've written for newspapers too. And I had this women's group. We were artists. Well, I guess we're still artists and we still do this. But from way back when I was first starting to get together with this group of artists here in Carmel, California, we ended up having pizza, going to a movie, and having a glass of wine afterwards. And we always ended up talking about our mothers, about stories in general, but mainly the stories about family involved the mother. And those mother stories were so interesting. Our ears picked up. We didn't really want to talk about much else. And I decided this is such a primal relationship. I'm going to put together some of these stories, and I'm going to write a novel. And that was the inspiration.
Okay, I understand. And you mentioned Carmel, California. I'm sorry, but I have been there, and I have to tell you, it's beautiful. So I sort of envy you that you get to sit in the middle of all that beauty.
Where do you live?
I live in New Jersey, and it's pretty here. I know everyone thinks it's terrible, but it's really not. It's actually quite beautiful. But Carmel is amazing, gorgeous. So,
It is nice. But my mother was born in New Jersey. I have a soft spot for New Jersey.
oh, okay. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Maybe that's another reason why Annie put us together. Who knows?
Could be. Who knows?
Who knows? So, tell me more about, I noticed that from the back of your book, and it says about the writer's bio. I was reading your biography, and it says that you have a PhD in Buddhism, and that really sparked my interest because I just wonder what inspired that, what sparked that interest, because not only do you have a PhD in Buddhism, but you are like a devotee. So I'm just curious because, yeah, maybe you could let me know what was your inspiration and your spark for wanting to study that.
Well, actually, I grew up in a Catholic family. My mother was Sicilian. My father was Japanese with a little bit of Iranian and Turkish thrown in on the mother's side.
Wow.
And so the values and foundation were primarily Catholic. My father was a doctor, so he was much more concerned about science, and he really didn't have any real interest in religion or spiritual values. So we were raised Catholic. And so that meant a worldview of sin and heaven and hell. And then when I went to college, I did a double major in psychology and philosophy. And the philosophy I was interested in were the Germans who studied Hinduism, like Kant and Hegel.
Okay.
And so there was kind of a backdoor into Buddhism through Hinduism, because Hinduism came first, and then Buddhism was a reaction to some of the teachings in Hinduism. But I also think that subconsciously or somehow in the back of my spirit and mind and soul, I was interested in exploring my heritage and the Buddhist roots from my father's side of the family, which were Japanese.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned the connection between German history and Hinduism, because a lot of people don't know that the swastika, that actually is it's a sign that's used in Hinduism, except they just flip it.
Yes.
When the Nazis used it, they actually flipped that sign, but it's actually a sign present in Hinduism.
That's right. It means good luck, which of course is kind of an awful connotation of it. But like you said, it was flipped. And also Arya, you might know Arya, the Aryan, that meant nobleman. And the Germans took that Sanskrit word and of course they brutalized it.
Right. Yeah. So does your interest in Buddhism show up in your novel?
Yes, it's a Buddhist theme as well as a Catholic theme. The family is kind of Catholic in the background, grew up in Midwestern smaller towns. The town is Akron, Ohio, which is actually where I was born.
Oh.
And so some of it draws on the Midwestern small town community and the Catholic.
Okay.
So there's a Catholic sense of obligation and duty to one's family, especially to aging parents. But then there's the Buddhist theme, which is karma. And so with karma, you always want to have good acts, good thoughts, because the repercussions will be negative if you aren't a good person. And this, of course, meant taking care of the aging parents so that there would not be any kind of fallout from that. So the Catholicism and the Buddhism clash at times and are integrated at times. And so that's the theme, the double theme of Things Unsaid.
I get it. I understand. I think I'm starting to understand more about the author and the Annie connection, because there is themes of faith in my book too, because it's, many people assume because I'm Indian that I'm Hindu or Muslim, and I'm neither. I'm actually was brought up in a Christian home. My grandfather was a convert when he was a very young man, and thus we were brought up as Christians and not Catholics, Protestants. And often people are very surprised by that. And so there is, of course, you know, that there's a lot, there's definitely a theme of faith in the book. But another thing I just noticed, because you said you were brought up in Akron, Ohio, which is not really a neighbor, but it's a Midwestern neighbor of where I was brought up, which was just in a small town outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So I think that's another connection we have.
Definitely those harsh winters and just the sense of helping your neighbor and being very neighborly and knowing your neighbors
Right.
is another commonality that we share. But I also think when you're talking about faith, you're talking about being raised Protestant, the cross-pollination that we both represent, not just in the fact that we're both people of color, but also the fact that we are in a predominant mainstream religion on the one hand, but there are all these other world religions that a lot of the Midwest wouldn't have known about. And we knew about it in some way. It's in ourselves. And that kind of cross pollination is in both of our books.
Yes, I think
And
that,
in us.
and that actually, that sort of discovery, the Midwestern discovery of you know, different cultures seems like it's part of your novel, and it's definitely a part of what my family experienced when they moved from Chandigarh, India, which is in the north part of India, to Minneapolis, Minnesota, one Thanksgiving, cold Thanksgiving back in the early 60s. And I think, you know, you mentioned that, and I think that we, you know, you and I both share that sort of, you know, and maybe an alien, maybe, I don't know if you can say alienness, but sort of not being home, and kind of people trying to find your place in your new home.
Yeah.
I think,
Otherness and otherness of some kind.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
But the other thing I wanted to ask you, since in my women's group of artists, all of our mothers were definitely a strong part of our backgrounds, and we had loads of stories. Some of them were truly horrific stories. Some of them were very loving and gentle stories. But we had our mothers there. So what we were discovering about our mothers, as I said, is more about who they are as people outside of us, you know, especially as a young child. All you think about is your mama in relationship to you. And that's such a fundamental part of developing personality. But in your case, you had to develop personality and sense of connection and a sense of family and identity from the time you were just barely verbal. If you lost your mother at 3, you know, your vocabulary even wasn't really very complete to describe your world and your place in it, as we're talking about otherness. And I just wanted to ask you how you went through the construction of a world without a mother.
Oh, I love the way you phrase that question. That's a great way to ask that question. Um, I think I had great siblings. I had, thankfully, I was born in a family. My mother, I was the youngest of 7. So they really helped a lot. I think I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them. I had a sister who was much older to me, and she sort of was the mother, I sort of a substitute mother. And later, in the book, I discuss how my father married, and I had a very difficult and I would say difficult, super challenging, not nice relationship with a stepmother. Um, but I think I never really knew mother. I never knew a nurturing mother. I guess I knew a nurturing sister. I knew nurturing siblings. But I think the only way I sort of connected to my mother was when I became a mother myself. Because I think, you know, I really do think, you know, we always have 2 chances to sort of be parents. One, the first chance we don't have anything to do with. So, you know, it's the family we're born into. So sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not good. But then the second chance we get is when we have our own children. And I really tried very hard to not repeat mistakes, but also try, I think that helped me to sort of know what mothering was about and what she might have felt, what she might have done. And as I get older, I find that to be even more true. I find myself making recipes that my sister tells me that she used to make. My sister taught me how to make chapatis the very particular way that my mother used to make them. Things like that. I mean, they're not tangible connections, certainly not the kind of connection that you have with your mom. But, when you don't have anything, something is better than nothing. So I sort of do, I hold on to stories. I hold her friends I have her very close friend sent me all the letters that my mother had mailed her. So I had a chance to kind of see my mom in a friendship, not as a mother, but how she was as a friend. And I got to read all her really interesting, and I found out that she loves to write. So that was wonderful. That was a gift, and that happened when I was 50. So things like that.
Well, that's wonderful because in some ways you could discover your mother in ways that those of us as daughters never knew about our mothers. There are no letters to show, oh, my mom had this kind of a friendship as a young woman, and way before I even knew that she was a young woman without children, that kind of thing. And a lot of my friends were the same way. Oh, I didn't know my mother had a career before I came into the world. These kinds of sort of common misconceptions of a woman who is your mother, but she's so much more. And you got to see that. You had windows into her soul and into who she was outside of being your mother. And in some ways, you could imagine her as mother because of the way she cooked the special food and the memories from your sister and other siblings. It just makes for a fascinating.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I mean, I think people, when they lose a parent or even a person, I think they tend to idealize, who that person was. And I feel like, the letters and just speaking to people, I feel like I really have a good grasp of who she was, not just, as my mother, the perfect person who never did anything wrong. I mean, all mothers make mistakes. I've had to apologize to my kids. But it helped me to see her as a rounded person, not somebody who was perfect. In her letters, I got to see that, I can see where she was disappointed, where she got angry, where perhaps she said something to her friend that I was like, I don't know if I would have said that, but, so yeah, I think I try not to idealize her and make her into, a deity of some kind.
Well, the reason you say that makes me laugh because in Things Unsaid, the mother, the diva mother, in fact, that one chapter is titled The Diva. She's sometimes considered, she's so narcissistic, some reviewers have said she's the mother from hell. So she's hardly idealized, and some of the responses from reviewers have been really quite amazing. Like, my mother was like that, and I don't feel alone anymore. I feel like you were on the wall eavesdropping. And then Annie McDonald, who is the host of Right Review, said when she was reading my book, she threw it across the wall. They hit the wall and said, oh, but I want to know how it ends. So she picked it up to finish reading it. And that's one of my favorite descriptions and responses to Things Unsaid, because it actually is the opposite of what you're talking about, how you didn't want to idealize your mother, but you heard all and read all these wonderful things. Whereas in mine, it was more like the mother was so unloving towards her daughter that her daughter has to figure out, without that kind of a role model, she wants to be a good mother, and she has to somehow let go of the relationship she had with her own mother in order for her to become a mother and not stay in the role of the daughter who was not loved.
I'm looking forward to reading, especially that chapter called the Diva, because
That's right at the beginning.
okay, I'm going to look forward to that because I think that's a large part of my book is that's another connection I think is that I have a wicked, I would say a cruel stepmother, and she is probably sounds like, what's the name of the character, the diva character? What's her name?
Her name is Aida, like the opera.
Oh, okay. Okay. I love that name. That's such a good name.
So that's her name. And the other thing that I thought might be a theme that Annie and I put together, I mean, that's why we'll put together, is because you just said that in your memoir, you had to try to navigate how you were going to deal with a stepmother who was not the stepmother you wanted. Of course, in Things Unsaid, the main character is navigating how to deal with a mother, which was not the mother she would have chosen. But I think that letting go is the theme. There's a chapter called Letting Go in my novel. And I can see where you had to, in some ways, let go of a stepmother who might be harming you in some way or
Yeah,
not good for you.
right. I mean, and Diana, don't you think in life we have to let go? Otherwise, I mean, being a person of Buddhist practice, that you've practiced this for so many years and studied it, I think that's a huge theme of what and I really know, I feel like you can look for justice and it never turns out right, or you want someone to get punished in some way and it never happens. But I think the is there themes of karma, I'm assuming, in your book. Would that
Yes,
be right?
yes.
Yeah,
Things
so
of
I think that
karma,
I think there is a theme of letting go, because I also have to do that at the end. I have to, and I do. I mean, I don't live my life hoping for justice, because that's not something that is on me to do. I have to just let go and move forward with the good parts of my life, because there's so many good things in life.
and of course, parenting is the ultimate letting go. You're developing these beautiful, wonderful little beings to become adults and independent of you. So, because they're going to be independent, that's the ultimate letting go that you have to go through in order for them to achieve what they want to achieve in life.
Right. How
And
how
uh,
does karma and letting go, how is that presented in that theme worked in your book, in Things Unsaid?
oh, you're going to have to find out, Elisheba, because
Okay.
it would be a spoiler. All I can say is
Okay. Okay.
with meditation. I meditate every day, and meditation is really letting go of thoughts that arise that are preventing you from calm and
Okay.
being centered. And in Things Unsaid, there's a point where she reads from the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
Oh,
And that's, if you have read that book, that is letting go.
I I'm gonna have to read this book because that sounds
I
so
can hardly
interesting.
wait to read your book too. It's going to be so much fun.
Yes, and then we'll have to talk about it again.
All right. Well, shall we call our author to author session almost at an end now? Because we both have really, really tempted each other with what we want to do with each other's books and read them and think about all the ways that Annie said that we were connected. And I definitely feel that.
Yes. Yeah. Do you? I would. I would say that I feel another. That's a really strong connection. The mother and daughter, that connection. But I also was just wanted to briefly ask you about. Oh my goodness, I lost my chain of thought. I apologize. Um, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. As you were saying
Uh,
something, I was gonna
that's
go
okay.
off of
We were
that.
talking about connections, how we're so connected with our writing and our reading, and how we can hardly
Yeah,
wait.
right, right. I was going to ask you. I mean, we just have. I think we do have a little bit of time left, but I was wondering, do you have a process when and what kind of process do you use? You said you meditate, so I was just wondering, do you use meditation in your writing? And if you do,
I can't hear you now.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I was going to ask you, do you use meditation before you write or as you write?
Well, I think that if you were to say something about meditation and writing or art, it's a different part of the mind, I think. And I feel like meditation just really kind of jump starts my writing. I start my day with meditation, and it just settles my mind down so that I can kind of have a clear, refreshing state of mind.
Okay.
So I would say that in that sense, it is a very important tool for writing.
I
And
see.
the more we talk, the more I think that you are like jewels in my story.
Okay.
You read things unsaid. You tell me if you identified a little bit with Jules, not the mother, of course, but with
Okay.
Jules.
I will.
And,
I will because I'm definitely going to get into it very quickly, very soon. Hopefully within the next few weeks. So, Diana, where can people buy your book?
oh, well, I'm sure this is true for you too, but we both have author websites. Mine's dianawhitepaul.com, and you can buy the book at your favorite bookstore. You can buy it at Amazon. You can get the ebook at BookBub. The Audible is available. I mean, it's everywhere. So,
Okay, great.
and one place that I would really think that you would like to visit is the World of the Right Review Bookshop. And they have a section called Author on Author Aisle, and you can order it online through that bookshop too.
That's great to know. Did you do the Audible yourself? Is it your voice?
No, it's not my voice, even though people tell me I have a very unique voice. No, I had a professional narrator. She's wonderful.
Okay. All
And
right.
she did all the voices, and there are quite a few characters.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Well, my book is also available on all the places you mentioned, Audible. I did my own reading for Audible since it was a memoir. I wanted to do that. Also on Amazon and on the Right Review. It's also available through my website. And also, I'm busy now with book chats and book discussions. I have a number of them coming up in October. So if people are interested, I'd love to visit you and visit. And I mean, I'm going to be in North Carolina, in Florida, in Minnesota, in Atlanta, of course, in New Jersey and New York, because here I live here.
Come to Carmel, nice weather. Come to Carmel.
I want to come to Carmel just because of Carmel.
Oh, but we're a very bookish community. Loads of book clubs, loads of bookstores,
Ooh,
and art
wonderful.
galleries. We have a thriving authors group.
Your book must be doing well there.
It is doing well here, and we support each other.
Yes.
We go to everybody's book launch. And of course, now with Zooming, we do all the Zooming book launches, but we're always out there.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I go to so many book launches a year, and I review so many books a year. We all do.
Oh, I love that. That maybe that's where I'm meant to retire is in your neighborhood in Carmel, California.
Please.
Even saying Carmel, California. I mean, who wouldn't want to live in a place called Carmel? I mean, come on.
It is pretty amazing, I've got to say.
Well, thank you so much, Diana. I had such a great time chatting with you.
Thank you, Elisheba, and thank you, Annie.
Yes, Annie. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.